Hi everyone, welcome to another webisode of The Good Doctor. Today I'm in the company of Dr. Zuhair Al Fardan, a plastic surgeon from Eternal Clinic. Welcome to the show, doctor.
Thank you.
So today's topic of conversation is breast augmentation. Why do women need it? Why do they get it? And is the procedure safe these days?
Right. Well, breast augmentation is basically, from the name, is to enlarge the breast. Now, why do the women do it? There's many reasons for that. For some women, the breast is an important integrity of their feminine or being a female. And some of them have always had a small breast. And they reach to the stage where they like to have more of a breast. They want to be more, feel more of a feminine. So that's one category of people. The second category of people, now there's somebody who's like had a normal size of breast, sort of. Then after pregnancies, they become enlarged and then they become a little bit smaller. They felt they're nicer when they were a little bit larger, so they will go and do it. And then the third part, after a certain age, the breast starts to become a little bit saggy. So if they are not too much, the sagginess of that breast, then we can do breast augmentation, where basically that will help in lifting the breast, but to a certain limit, of course.
So is this a psychological more than a biological need or necessity? Do women have some kind of a relationship with their anatomy where they say, look, I need to look younger, or I need to look better, or I need to look... What is it? What goes on?
It is both. It's a psychological, but it's also how they perceive and how they feel about their body. Right? And some of them, they're actually, you see them, they always had a small breast, they're always inverted, they're not outgoing, they, you know, when they're doing sport, they
don't feel feminine enough.
Exactly.
Okay, exactly. So if a woman has smaller breasts, especially you know, in the world that we live in today, where we're bombarded with advertisement, the media has a certain image, whether it's in a magazine or it's on TV, there's a certain image that goes into being a woman, and that sort of plays into it. Influences. Okay, let's talk about the procedure. What happens?
Okay, basically what happens when somebody comes to the clinic and they want seeking breast augmentation, of course, first we have to get full information. And there's some certain important information we take from them. Is basically also there's a history, family history of breast cancer, at what stage of their life they are now, if they're planning pregnancies and breastfeeding, or they're finished with their breastfeeding or not on pregnancies. So all this, and then we can basically assess their body. We're going to go, okay, now how big you want to go? And I normally, for my patient, I give them 4 options to choose from. And these options are, the first option said, okay, I'm going to put a big implant as possible, but still looks natural. Your friend will not notice that it is, only maybe your partner will notice there's something different. This is step number 1.
Sure.
The second option will be, okay, as big as possible, still looks very natural, and close friend will notice there's a difference, and partner, but not just anybody outside. The third option is as big as possible, very natural looking, but it will be obvious to everybody there's something has different been done, and there's some probably breast augmentation. And the fourth option, which is I don't do, is as large as possible, doesn't look natural, and you can tell from far away there's something's been done.
You touched on a point where after a mother's had children and they've breastfed, what's the relationship between breast augmentation or getting a breast implant and breastfeeding? Okay,
first of all, by doing a pure breast augmentation and your incision lines far away from your nipple areola complex is no problem by breastfeeding.
Okay.
This, the silicone implant being in under the breast, because you know you're going to go underneath the breast or underneath the muscle, it will not jeopardize or will do anything with your milk production. But what happened is there's already a silicone implant available there, so the breast is bigger. Then with the production of milk, the breast will become even bigger. And then after that, when it's finished, what will happen? The skin will be stretched out, and then once you stop breastfeeding, the breast will shrink again, but the stretch out of the skin will be there, so you'll start to have a droopiness of the breast.
Okay, so it's more of an anatomical inflation, deflation kind of
Yeah.
thing that would affect that. But it has no effect whatsoever on the milk, on the breastfeeding.
Absolutely.
Okay. Now, let's talk about the technology itself. How far have we come along since the days of the early silicone implant that would leak and you'd hear horror stories, or the doctors just didn't do it right and it starts oozing out? Where are we today in terms of technology?
First we have to make sure that there are so many different silicone implant companies there, providers, but not all of them have very high standard. And we all know about the recent few years ago what happened with the French implant, the PIP, and the problems there. But thank God this is just one phenomena which hopefully never going to happen again. But we have there's a companies where they've been working on the breast implant for the last 40 years. Yes, it has evolved a lot. It has changed a lot. There's like every 10 to 15 years, there's like a newer generation of implants. We started from generation 1, we are now on generation 4, and 5 is coming soon out.
So for our viewers who want to get a better idea of when we say there's a new generation of implant, what are we talking about? We're talking variation in sizes, forms, shapes.
Basically,
and I want to ask you about the safety aspect as well.
What changes is multiple things. You know, the silicone implant, the shell outside is made out of silicone. It's all medical silicone. And inside, it's also silicone gel. Now, this silicone gel, it's different molecules that get in together. The production of these has evolved and changed as well. As well as the shell outside. There was a time where there has different type of shells, different type of even silicone. There's some even other material like polyurethane in it. So this has changed, and then they actually doing now more research, and they're more strict about it. Before any new generation comes out, there's a lot of research has been done. There's a lot of basically even proved materials being investigated properly. So they're very, very vigilant about this. Now, when we're talking about what's also different, even the type of the gel inside, there's like softer one, there's a harder ones. Now, the shape of the implant, 20 years ago or more, we only had the round implants. Now we have the round implants and we have the teardrops implant, which looks more natural. So this has also a difference. We have more sizes, yes. We have more options in each of the sizes, yes. The height and the width and all has changed, even the projection of the implant. So now we have selection maybe of 99 different sizes and shapes and all these things, where 30 years ago we didn't have this number.
Okay. Let's talk about, so you're saying that we're getting safer and safer as every year that goes by, so women can rest assured that nothing major is going to affect them when it comes to the technology. Let's talk about the procedure.
Okay. Basically, the procedure, we do it under general anesthesia. And normally it's not very long, it takes about an hour. Okay. Maximum maybe an hour and 10 minutes.
That short?
It is a short procedure. Wow. It's a very precise procedure. We have 3 options for incision sites. Either we do it under the breast, or we do it half circle where the areola, the dark pigment of the nipple areola complex, or in the armpits. Okay. And as you see in this picture, where we see all these 3 different incision lines. Now, where to put the implant? This is just to access. Now the implant can go either above the chest muscle, which is under the breast glands, or goes under the muscle. There's 2 different options, and there's a reason why they're there.
Yeah, I was going to say, what's the difference?
Okay, the difference is if somebody comes who has actually basically skin and a little bit of glandular tissue, which is the breast tissue, not enough breast tissue. If you put this implant above the muscle, underneath the breast tissue, then it will not look natural, because there's not enough cover to cover the edge of the implant. So you can feel the edge of the implant, you can even see the edge of the implant, so it doesn't look natural. So in this case, you have to go under the pectoral muscle, and then you have basically the muscles covering the implant, you have the subcutaneous tissue, the glands of the breasts, and the skin. So it's more natural. The corners and the sides of the implants will not be visible.
Is this ideal for people who've got small breasts?
Absolutely. If somebody comes who have enough breast tissue, no, they have the option going both ways, either above the muscle or under the muscle, and then this discussion will be between the surgeon and the client, We'll talk about what's the benefit, and then they can basically decide together.
Sure.
Now, what happens is when they are under general anesthesia, basically we open, we decide which the incision line we're taking. We go through to get to the level where we want. Then we create a pocket. If it's under the muscle or above the muscle, we create a pocket. This pocket has to be precise and to the size of the implant. And then basically, under a sterile condition, we basically insert that implant into the pocket where we created, and then basically we close the skin and the layers.
So the implant sits in the pocket.
Yes.
And that's where you get the natural look
Absolutely.
of the breast. Okay. So it takes about an hour to an hour and 10 minutes. I honestly thought it was much longer than that, but this is good to know. And when you talked about incisions, does the patient have input on this, where and how they want this incision?
Yes.
Which one's less visible?
To me, basically, the less visible will be the one underneath the breast.
Okay.
Now, people think about the underarms will be better because not visible, but it's not true. Why? Because under the arms, if you're out there doing sport or swimming, there's nothing covering it.
Right.
So it is visible. Under the arms, only if you're going to do the implants under the muscle.
Right.
Because if you're putting above, you don't have a precise control over how big you're going to make this pocket.
Right.
Okay.
And then, just holding out your finger, how big is this incision that we're talking
Incision,
about?
of course, that depends on how big the implant's going to be.
Right.
Majority of time, the incision's between 5 to 7 centimeter long. It's not very long ones.
That big.
Okay, exactly. Now, if somebody comes and said, okay, I wanted to have where the areola is. Now, if she has a small areola and we put a big implant, I can't do it.
Right.
So that will determine also the size of the areola. But the options are there.
Right.
We discuss the option in details, and I explain to them. And in the end, we'll always have a basically a conscious decision from both of us.
Okay. So we've understood why women need to augment their breasts. We've understood what the technology is, and we've understood the procedure. Now, what are some of the risks?
The risk and complication. Well, the risk is, the main risk is capsule contractures, what we call it. Now, the body responds to any foreign material inside. It builds a capsule. It's a type of protection in the body. Now, this capsule, it could be just very thin and very soft capsule that you don't notice it, the patient doesn't notice it, even the doctor doesn't notice it, and that's in everybody. But this capsule can have a second degree capsule, which is basically, it's there, it's not visible, but when I examine my patient, I can feel there's something. Now, the breast still look natural, it's not giving any problem, we leave it. The third category, no, it's a harder capsule. Now, it's not painful, it's not visible, but the breast doesn't look natural because it's holding the implant in one position, doesn't move naturally.
So when you say capsule, just so I understand and our viewers as well, is this the body's reaction towards the silicone?
Yes.
Is it like is it fighting the silicone?
No, it's not fighting the silicone. The body is basically applying a shield around it.
Okay.
To keep it there, and it will happen to any material you put in your body.
Right.
It doesn't matter if it's silicone or any other, even if you put titanium mesh or anything, the body will build capsule around it. So that's a natural production.
So it's like a defense shield that says this is an external element.
Exactly.
Let's keep it isolated.
Yeah.
Okay. So in that process, when that happens, you talked about a thin shield and a thicker shield.
Exactly.
Is there pain involved to the individual?
Only if it comes to the 4th degree.
Right.
When it's really become very hard, then it might become painful.
And why would it come to a 4th degree?
Well, this is the problem. We don't know why one person will get it and one other person will get it. In my experience and so many surgeries I've done, I've never came across in my patient 4th degree.
Okay.
I think also the implants, the newer implants and the surface of the implant have also changed, might have contributed in that.
Right.
I've seen 2nd and 3rd degree where we had to go inside and just basically take it out and then put back the implant and everything is fine. There's so many different theories about why it happens. We don't know exactly for sure, but one of the theories says there's a shearing effect between the capsule and the implant, and that will develop that it becomes harder. They said no, maybe there's a small bacterial infection has happened at any time, and that's
during
why
the stage of the operation, or is it after
the operation as well. Okay, because there's a blood circulation going there.
Right.
And that could have happened. But this infection could have been from anywhere, maybe from the tooth or anywhere else in the body, and through the blood can go there. The third myth is sometimes there's like a foreign body of powder or something has happened from the gloves of the surgeon or anything like that. That's why we wash our hands and wash the gloves before we put the implant. There's some particular material where when we wash the pocket. So there's like so many different theories, but we don't know why.
Okay.
There's sometimes it happens also on one side only, not the other side.
Yeah,
so that's very individual, and some people are more prone to get it than others. But as I said, like it's not very common.
Okay. Is there a particular brand of silicone that you would recommend over others? I mean, how does a doctor choose between the various types of manufacturers out there?
Right.
I'm asking this question because the patient wouldn't know this.
Absolutely. First of all, you have to make sure that whatever brand you're using is legal in the country where you are.
Okay.
Secondly, you can always also ask, are these, for instance, internationally known? Are they FDA approved? Are they CE marketed? All these, like, you know, there's big organizations, like FDA is one of them, and they're very strict. So if you have a company and a material which has been approved by FDA, I think it will be you are more safer than other ones. Here in the UAE, we are actually very much pro FDA, and whatever is approved there or not approved, then we'll actually accordingly we do our approval here as well. And of course you have to discuss this with your surgeon and make sure that you know which company they're using and why using this company, not the other ones, for instance. And after the surgery, you always make sure that you have a card from the implant company manufacturer says the serial number of the implant, the size of the implant, the surgeon who did it for you, and always this is you for the patient, and always has to be with the patient.
That's a brilliant advice there. Listen, you're putting a foreign object into your body. You want to make sure, and you do it with the right intents and purposes, but you want to make sure that your body remains healthy and nothing major will go wrong. So these are some of the measures to consider that adds to that security factor when you're undergoing this procedure. Thank you, Dr. Fardan, for this wonderful information. If you have any thoughts, questions, or comments about the subject that we just talked about, which is breast augmentation, please leave them in the comment section down below, or you can leave it on our Facebook page or Twitter account. Thanks for watching The Good Doctor on eZeLiving.com, where you can find anything and everything lifestyle.